Yes, everyone. This video is going to be about fetch and how to fetch data from an API. I hope you've seen the video on what JSON is and how to use it, and also on APIs and how to communicate with APIs. Cool. Let's get to fetch. So what does fetch do? Fetch is the mechanism that actually gets the data from a server into our code. So what does it look like? It's just called fetch. And then here you write the URL for the API that you're trying to access. So let's try and use the yes, no, because it's like kind of a simple API. And it here. So this part, response, you don't need to worry too much about. It'll be explained what it is in the next class. Yes, no data. And let's log this out. Okay. So we are fetching some data from this API. Then we get the response from the API. Then we say .json. That is kind of like what we did up here with the pass. It's a little bit different, but it does the same. It takes a response and it turns it into JSON so we can work with it. And then we get the data from the server. So let's try and find our site. Here we go. Okay. So here, now we have it in our JavaScript file. Okay. So it went from here kind of online, you could say. But now with fetch, we can get that data into our application. Okay. So the same JSON that you see here when you go online is exactly the same JSON that you're gonna get here in your JavaScript. It's the same object. So what can I do with that? I can do a lot of things, right? Like now it's kind of like the world is your oyster, right? So what if we wanted to, for example, just insert an H1 with yes or no? It's all this website does. It's like mega simple, okay? So if you remember, oh no, actually, if I wanted to do that, write down the steps that we need to go through. If I want to insert an H1 into this site, right? Using the data that we get from the API, how can I do that? So write down just like a few lines about what steps I need to take to do that. And I'll just wait a little bit just to let you pause the video so you can write down. And then we will continue. Yes. So what do we need to do? We need to create an H1 in JavaScript. We need to set the inner HTML of the H1 to the answer from the server. And what is the last thing we need to do? We need to append the H1 to the document. Okay, now we have like a nice kind of game plan that we can go through. I recommend you always doing this because then you think a little bit about the problem, dividing into some steps, and then we can take them one at a time and kind of cross them out when they're done. const h1 equals documents dot create elements h1. That was it. Simple. h1 dot inner html equals to what now? So I wanted to say sometimes yes, sometimes no, like no or ye, yes, not false or true. So what can I actually use there? Well, I can see here that it's an object that has 3 keys: answer, forced, and image. Okay. So which one am I looking at? Which one should I use, do you think? I want to use the answer because I want the no or the yes. So this is the data that I get from the server. And then I just say answer. And the last thing is document. I think you can say .body, right? .append child. Which one? This is the same as saying document.query selector body, I think. Let's see. Yes, let's try and reload it. Yes, no. Okay, so you see it's actually working. Now I have made a site that pulls in some information from another site. And you know, the cool thing about this is that I have no idea how these people does yes or no. I don't care. I don't care about all the difficulties they had with making that. Maybe it's super simple, maybe it's really hard, right? I don't know, and I don't care. I just get the data and then I use the data as I want to, right? So in this example, it was just kind of getting yes or no into a website. It's very simple. You could also get the GIF into it as well. You could insert an image into the body, and then you could change the source to the image key, and then you would have the GIF as well there. Okay, cool. So that was kind of talking with one API, the yes no one. What if I wanted to, for example, talk with this API, the Giphy API? It's all the same. Now I just use the fetch and then I get some data and I can start working with that. And remember, like this dot then and dot then stuff, don't worry about it. It'll be covered in the next time. Just know that you can copy this code and then here is the data that you get from the API. So let's be cheeky and copy this code here. And then I will put in this URL. And let's close this. Okay. So of course, as always with JavaScript, we want to have good names. We don't just want to call this yes no data because it's not yes no data anymore. It's like a GIF data. Okay, let's take a look at how that looks. So we have an object. Whoops. It has 3 keys: data, meta, and pagination. And that was also what we saw over here. Data, meta, and pagination. In the data is where we have the GIFs. So if I wanted to get the GIF, let's say I wanted to, what should I do? Just print out the GIF for the first element. Then I could do pretty much the same as here. Maybe I don't want to make each one. I just want to make a span. oops. I have GIF data. So now, if I want to get the first GIFs URL, how would I do that? Okay, so here is what the JSON looks like. I'll actually get it over here so you can see it at the same time. And let's assign a variable. First GIF URL equals 2. Okay. What should I write here? Okay. Write it down. I'll be waiting a little bit. Yes, and you can pause it. And I'll begin in 3, 2, 1 now. So I take the GIF data. Then I want the key called data. Data. Now, when I do .data, then I have an array. I can see here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want the first element. Now I have this object here, URL, blah, 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 blah. And I want the URL. So I can do .url. Let's try and log it out just to see if it's correct. Let's remove those. So let's have a look. So here we see there's the URL. And what is it? Oh, it's so sad. Let's do some funny. Yes, and if I wanted to insert the this first GIF URL, then I'll just do like this. So here I have it. I insert a span. Let's take a look at it. A span with the inner HTML of the URL. And let's see if this is funny. I sure as hell hope so. Not really. But so that's what you're going to be working with for the exercises. You're going to be working with fetch, and you're going to be working with getting some data from an API, and then somehow using that data within your application. Let me just see if I covered everything here. This was the fetch. Yes. So there's like an API that you're going to be working with the exercises that fetches how many astronauts there are in space right now. And then you have to get that information, and then you have to put it into the page. And try, when you have these challenges, try divide it up in 2 steps. So first you have the fetching of the information from the API. First figure out how that works. How does the API works? How do you communicate with it? When there's an API, there's always some documentation for it. That's where you kind of want to be heading. When you have figured all that out, how you interact with the API, how you get the right stuff, and you can do that just through the URL here. You can try and just test it here and see, oh yeah, this looks good. You don't need JavaScript for that. So when you figure that out, then you want to use fetch to get that data into your application. And when you have it into your application, then you have to figure out then what are the next steps. So for example, with the astronauts, it's about fetching the data from the astronauts API, and then it's about putting that data into the website so that you see, like, here's the name of the first astronaut, second astronaut, third astronaut. And when we with that, when we have the data in JavaScript, then it's a lot about like working with the DOM, document.create element. It's a lot of inner HTML, and it's a lot of append child in different assets or different variations. Yes, anyways, that was it for me. Yeah, thank you.